we're live and breaking this Friday evening. I am Shivangi Shukla and we're going to the top story, the Adani controversy. Remember, the RBI asked banks to tell it about how much exposure they had to Adani Enterprises. Now, what we know so far, the breaking news coming in, public sector lender Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, in fact, on Friday said it has reduced exposure to the embattled Adani Group entities over the last 2 years. It has no concern on asset quality issues as well with Adani. The bank's managing director said this, and he told reporters that the bank's overall exposure to the ports to media entities is 1/4 of the single group exposures allowed under the Large Exposures Framework (LEF), but refused to share a number. All right, Bank of Baroda is saying they reduced exposure to Adani Group. We're getting these back-to-back updates coming in right now, viewers. The Bank of Baroda has spoken. The banking manager's director, Chief Executive Sanjeev Chadha, told reporters the bank's overall exposure is 1/4 of the single group's exposures allowed under the Large Exposures Framework (LEF). Let's go straight to Abhishek Kapoor, a senior executive editor, who is joining us. Now, remember, Abhishek, the RBI asked the bank to share information on exposure to Adani Group companies. The Bank of Baroda has also spoken out about it. Please make our viewers understand what this means and what Bank of Baroda is saying.
Well, we have to look at it from the prism of the politics that's really panning out, Shivangi, on this issue. And what this means is that if Bank of Baroda does not have exposure, if the SBI has less than 1% exposure of all its assets under management vis-a-vis the Adani Group investments, similarly for the LIC, if their money invested, which is, of course, the money of citizens of the country, hard-earned money of taxpayers, of senior citizens, if that is also less than 1%, then what's this political opposition brouhaha about? Because their entire raison d'etre of those protests that have taken place in Parliament and outside over the last 3-4 days since the Adani Hindenburg episode really has panned out, they are saying that because taxpayers' money is involved, because savings are involved, hard-earned money of citizens of the country is involved. That's why the government should get into it by way of a JPC, or the political executive should get into it by way of a JPC, or ask a retired Supreme Court judge to look into and inquire about this entire episode. The point is that we have robust mechanisms of regulation when it comes to the industrial, corporate and financial sector, and all those mechanisms have kicked in, be it the RBI, be it the National Stock Exchange, be it the SEBI, and others. So I think what is important is we have seen statements coming in, calming statements coming in, both from the Finance Secretary and the Finance Minister. Remember, at the end of the day, while the Adani Group might have played up the India card with the flag, use of flag, and seeing this or trying to project this as an attack on India and India's infrastructure itself, the fact of the matter is that the Adani Group is just one of the many corporate groups in the country. Adani Group, of course, is not the biggest. And with this entire episode, whatever chinks were there have also come out. So obviously the group at their own end would be working to make sure that those are looked into, those gaps are plugged, and those loopholes, if there are any, are taken care of. So in that sense, I think this is just one side story really panning out in the otherwise very resilient and bright spot that Indian economy is, and which it is being praised around the world. So, discounting for this, the opposition perhaps has this only as their danda to hit the government with, given the fact that Parliament session is on. That typically happens. So you would see just ahead of the Parliament session something would come out, be it the wiretaps, be it the phone tapping controversy earlier, or in this case now this Hindenburg research report coming out. The fact of the matter is that these clarifications really gives you an idea of what is at stake, how much is at stake, and what should be our reaction. So in that sense, I think this is more like some fodder for the opposition to think. Of course, does not matter. They can, if the entire intention is to target the government using the Adani stick, they will continue to do that. We have seen earlier interviews of Gautam Adani, for example, where he has very categorically said that the greater part of Adani Group's rise has in fact happened during the pre-BJP days, both when Congress party was at the center and Congress party was ruling Gujarat also, and that's been a long time. So we're talking about 1980s and early 90s. And that's when the Adani Group really took roots and started growing. So in that sense, I think, since you asked about what this Bank of Baroda clarification means, it's important that these clarifications are coming in, because that really assures the investors, assures the people whose money goes via these platforms into these kind of investments. And that includes, of course, pensioners, senior citizens, taxpayers, and irrespective of what politics goes on between the government and the opposition in the parliament and outside, these are reassuring words for that great number of people who might be concerned in the backdrop of this Adani Hindenburg saga as to what happens to their money.